my role in all of this is to make sure that we can all connect, but actually I'm also a teacher. I teach computer science, and I've become extremely interested in just how can we make our curriculum engaging and inviting and just decomposing, as we say, and make it accessible. So VibeCoding arrived in my inbox at the Craig and Dave thing at Bromsgrove School, and last July, and I went along, and there was an amazing teacher who said, like, this is what I'm doing, I'm VibeCoding. And I was like, wow, this is interesting, but how do I go about doing that? And it wasn't actually until Christmas until I found something I thought would be real fun. Basically, at school, we have a house system called a ship system. It's very confusing, but it's girls' school, it's tradition. So in our ships, we had Christmas competitions going on. I was like, I really want to get involved in that. And so my first app was to develop a whole school calendar, an advent calendar, and all students gained access to a link. I did this using Google Studio Code, sorry, and then they all had a link, staff had a link, everybody in the school was getting involved, and I made this advent calendar. I haven't put a screenshot behind that, but I then was like, well, if we can give a link, can we capture data? Can we store it behind? And in the VibeCoding area, I actually linked into a Google Sheet. And in that Google Sheet, I captured the points, and I VibeCoded an interface, and we could see the charts. I stuck it on the TVs, and then the ships got very competitive, and they started cheating and stuff. But then in the middle of all that, I had to kind of stop them cheating. So VibeCoded a little bit of security as well, and then trimmed off how many points people could earn because they were going way over the maximum points. And it was really engaging, and they all gained a lot of it, the staff especially so as well. So we did that throughout the whole school. And then I've got some aha moments. I thought, well, you know, I've become really interested in using PRIMM, predict, run, investigate, modify, make. And I thought, you know what, I'm doing this the whole time through my programming with my students, but actually can't do that with my non-programming topics. And I've never been able to really kind of nail it. So at which point, what I did is I kind of went, well, how about picking a topic that I would probably get the kids acting out, where we're kind of primming, but we're just doing in person. And so I wanted them to predict what would happen in a courtroom. So I VibeCoded a little app using Google AI Studio as a courtroom. The graphics are very, I would say, South Park-ish, and that took a little bit of time to kind of get used to. But to be completely honest with you, the kids didn't really care. They just wanted this little starter activity. There was a courtroom drama. There were loads of little witnesses, and there were things that they had to do and predict, and then they were the judge, and they selected whether it was a legal, ethical, environmental issue. And then I did one for Ripper for the older ones as well. And then it was a case of, okay, well, maybe this could be a revision tool as well. And what was really great is this was a starter activity, which the children were going, but I don't like agree with that idea. And so all of a sudden they were investigating, and then they were arguing with me, and then they were saying, well, what about if we could actually, you know, argue the case for? And we had the most amazing debate just as this 5-minute activity. So that was that. So just making sure we can admit some more people. There we go. So then we had the next part. I thought, oh, okay, if I can interact with my students, then I maybe be able to create something a little bit more interesting. Now, I know there's some sim vibe code apps out here, and I created this very first one. I thought I'll pick the hardest A-level topic that I find really difficult for students that really struggle with the mathematical concepts. This one I did actually have to really get quite involved with, because the switches and the symbols just didn't come out the way I needed them to. So I vibe coded an app to help students investigate full adders, half adders, and D-type flip-flops. And in my D-type flip-flop, it actually had a little clock going on, so we could see it going up and going down, and it was a real-time graph. I'll provide all these resources, you can play with it yourself. But alongside that, we had the truth table, which dynamically updated depending on the switches that the students used. Again, I didn't expect them to use this in terms of let's solve your exam. What it's going to do is it's going to allow you to go and have a look at it, run it, investigate it. Now then you go away to modify and make through exam technique. And then it was like, oh, microbits, can we get something happening in microbits? That really didn't happen because I tried using Canva. At that moment in time, Canva just was, the algorithm behind it just wasn't picking it up as well. So I'm kind of halfway through that, but I'm determined to get that working through Canva as well. And then I had a further kind of like, okay, I've got them to predict, I've got them to run, I've got them to investigate. Can they modify and make? So at this point, I've got some entry-level prompt engineering, and this is where I'm teaching the children to prompt engineer. So I'll talk to you about the care model that I use with the students, but they went away. I taught them 6 weeks of CSS and HTML, and they were tearing their hair out. I want to just see a final website, and we didn't have enough time because, you know, 6 hours is not enough to teach the whole lot. And I said, you know what, let's vibe code it and let's reverse engineer it. So those students who were flying were absolutely fine with it. But those students that were a little bit reticent, sat back and they were a little bit worried about putting it all together. Their tags didn't work, their links didn't work. And so I said, let's go vibe code something. And the engagement went up the roof. So it was absolutely incredible. This was Canva, and I tell you, when I ran it through AI, I had to switch it on. They gave them, and I sat back for 2 hours and I just went, go make. And then they got a link and they were sharing it between each other. And they were like, but I want yours and I want that to happen on mine. How did you do that? And then they were modifying and they were making, and oh my God, it was absolutely brilliant. Year 8 kids, give them vibe coding. It was great fun. So then I think, was that, oh, that is, no, I've got the wrong tab. There we go, final thoughts, okay. I didn't actually put this on. I've talked about a care framework. So we need to make sure when we prompt that it's contextual. Make sure that everything that you teach the students to do is all about breaking down that prompt, being really specific at what you want. And my advice to you, if you ever want to do anything with this, pick one thing. I was like, hey, I'm going to just vibe code my whole website. Hey, we're going to do all this. And then no. And it became too complex and I was using too many tokens, and I'm sure all this is going to come out in the other presenters. And just have some fun with it, because I know we've picked Key Stage 3, but I've actually vibe coded some apps now for my GCSE and A-Level students that helped me get some inroads, and it didn't take that much time because you get better at it. But be aware, you have to be patient. Your vibe code has to be specific enough that it doesn't do some rewrites, which one of my girls generated their website, and she created the code and then she put a new prompt in and it completely rewrote. And she looked at me and went, this is Faulkner, this just rewrote everything. I'm like, there you go. Let's have a discussion about why it's doing that. So making sure we stay compliant as well. Just make sure every country's got kind of different regards to, you know, compliance in their country. Speak to the people around you. That's really important. Put pedagogy first. Identify a need. I've spent too much time kind of like trying to prompt it. I'm like, what am I actually trying to get out of this? It's really important that you do that first. Look at the limitations. Google seem to be lowering their ability, the number of tokens you can generate, and also the amount of time you can do it for. And then when you get your students to be ready, when, hey, let's get them doing it too.
before I put my slide up, I might as well just quickly talk over the front of this and give you a bit of a background of who I am. I've come into this industry of education, but I've come from it from the technical side. I'm a software engineer, as it says. But for the last 14, 15 years, I've run everything from code clubs, mentored, tutored, taught. I've really got into it. And the one thing that AI and vibe coding has done for me is it's meant that I've been able to embrace writing extensions for things and extending things, or even in the case of the microbit, picking up a dead extension that only worked for V1 microbits, that was the Bluetooth MIDI, and actually bringing it back to life for the V2. So it's provided me from the technical side with an awful lot of extra features. So if I just now present now, that one, share. Hopefully you should be able to see mine. So I'm calling this talk Slow Down to Vibe Fast, and it is sort of harks back to a bit of what Emma was saying, is if anyone's tried any vibe coding, they dive into it with both feet, have great fun exploring, creating things, and then soon start to realize how much of a mess it can make and how it can embrace your dreams and think it can do everything for you because you're asking it to do much. So what I'm going to do through this is really show out that, you know, how if you do slow down, you can get in a vibing faster than you think. So let's have a look. We surrender to our vibes, we open our IDEs, we prompt, and we expect amazing things to happen. I'm from a software engineering, so at the point I used to worry about syntaxes and all this sort of stuff and getting it right. Now you're just throwing prompts, throwing ideas. And then as everyone says, you know, the honeymoon ended, you know, you start realizing it's not as simple as you started on, and you realize there's loads of things going on. You know, it isn't just typing anymore. We've got to think about it before we actually dive in. It's so easy to dive in first. A quote from what I've put out before: vibe code is only as robust as the clarity of your foundational blueprint. Think about what you're doing first, and then you'll be able to create great things. So I'm going to run us through this ideal vibe loop. It's just some ideas that I'm bringing forward from what I used to do as development a lot of the time, and we've modified really for vibe coding environment. And we're going to look at personas. Who are you coding for? What are you creating? Co-architecting. You not have to think about everything yourself anymore. There's AI out there to help you think and discuss things with. Obviously, build, if you've already vibed, you've already hit that part. And finally, to evaluate, what have you done at the end? Where are you going to come from? So we're going to go through all those steps quickly. So looking at first once, vibe, looking at personas. So the idea of a persona is really saying to yourself, you know, who am I creating this app for? What am I creating this website for? Am I creating it for a student? Am I creating it for other teachers? Am I creating it for whoever? What is your target? And then think about what they actually want to get out of each of these things. This is going to help you focus your mind on your prompts, because if you go to AI and said, do something, it will create you a myriad of things. A lot of it you won't need. A lot of it is just extras. You're looking for something what we call the minimum viable product, MVP. What is the smallest amount of stuff that I can do to release something, to get something out there so people can use? This in turn will help focus what you're trying to prompt for, what you're trying to go for. So when it starts going off course, you'll say, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to do something else. So quickly jump into the co-architect idea of things now. You've got generative AI. It not only codes, it can discuss problems with you. It can help you formulate ideas. You can go back and forth and say, think about this, think about that. Am I doing this the right way? Is there a better way of addressing this? I'll quite often, if I've got an idea, I'll leave a chat open and I'll come back to it the next day and I'll maybe think of something else, because you're thinking, it's a conversation you're having. You're not looking to finish your thought process in 30 seconds flat and jump into the vibe. No, that's the speed. We're trying to slow down. We're trying to look at things, discuss things, think about different opinions. The first thing that lots of people usually forget about when they vibe code great front ends, where's the administration on the back end that can help do other things, set people up? They're always looking for the great. They're looking for the front. Without slowing down, you forget about this. So go through, as I said here, we're going to iterate the idea with the model first. We're going to generally chat about it with AI, think about what needs to be done. We're going to then draft the spec. We would call it a product requirements document, a PRD. But the point is, you can ask the generative AI to summarize what you've been discussing, to give to another AI bot to actually vibe code. So after you've had all your great discussions, it can actually produce you. Now, it doesn't mean you have to stick to it exactly. Take what it's done, change it, move forward. Then, of course, we go and execute the vibe. You go and take these and you put it into that to see what's going to happen. Finally, as it says here, pressing play on the blueprint. You've done that. This is step 3. I'm not going to talk to you about vibe coding. There's lots of other people that are going to take you through that in this session. I'm just here to sort of help you slow down and put more thought into these processes to hopefully make your prompts better and hopefully your prompting cheaper. Because as Emma said, tokens are there. The holiday of them giving us unlimited tokens is gone. So we've got to think careful that it doesn't go too far. Finally, we're going to look at the evaluation. And I've said this, embracing the clean slate. The good thing with vibe coding is previously, I would be very precious about my code. It took me a long time to do. Vibe coding, it isn't that bad. If you realize it's going off in the wrong direction, throw it away. Toss it away. Think about again. It's not a loss. You've learned something. What you've learned in that is what you don't want. You can be able to recognize better when things happen in the future and stop them before they happen. So you've learned an awful lot. Vibe is managing to get that speed of recoding things amazingly. And then if we recap back on this, so we go the personas, we co-architect it, we build it, we evaluate it, maybe we throw it away. We can go back around that loop to tighten up our personas, think about more, who are the people we want, maybe ask some more challenging questions when you're co-architecting it with the other people. And hopefully, by doing this, you're going to start getting better prompts, more efficient prompts. And as it says here on the final slide, patience is the ultimate accelerator. You don't have to dive into it head first. You don't need to believe the hype. Slow down, you'll improve things, and hopefully your output will improve on the other side too. So I'll pass that back to you, Emma. It was quick, it was fast. If anyone else wants to talk to me about, I've put contact details on my handout sheet. I can take you through everything. It's what I do. We're helping startups and all these sorts of people go through exactly the same process that you're going through. And it's a great learning exercise.
Hello, and thank you for joining me in this session here about small tools and real systems. My name is Matthew Ignash, and I am at the American International School of Chennai. I'm honored to have been able to join virtually here and share my learning over the course of the year in vibe coding and what AI can do for you. I hope as you embark on this journey that what I provided here today is a glimpse into what is possible in helping you build the confidence to experiment and try new things on your own with vibe coding. In a typical school, we might have wishes for a program or an application that can do something for us. And that wish might end there because we don't have the skill set to do it, or our IT department isn't able to do it. But now with vibe coding, we can build tools that support the specific needs we have in our classroom. If you're new to vibe coding, my recommendation as you embark on this journey is to start small. Start with something that you can build with a few steps and build that confidence in the language to help you embark and build more complex systems. So what am I starting with here today? Everybody does it. We might at the beginning of the year make popsicle sticks with students' names on them so that we can cold call and learn our kids' names. It seems simple until you have a student that switches sections or a new student gets added to your roster, and all of a sudden your popsicle sticks are no longer as useful as you thought. So what would happen if we digitize this? What would happen if you had control of this product from beginning to end, that if a new student joined, you could add them to your roster? If a student switches sections, you could easily switch them to a new section, all within a couple minutes of work. My solution to that, and this is what I teach my own staff in 10-minute in-services as they start on AI and vibe coding, is the idea of a digital random name selection. Why do I start with this? Well, in 10 minutes, you can go from having an idea to a final product. What does this require? It requires 3 files. You need a Google Sheet. I work in a Google environment, but you can do this with Excel, where you have your rosters, your information that you need about that student. You have an app script that gives the instructions, the wiring to what is going to happen. How is it going to randomly select names or know what student is in which class? And then we have a single HTML file that gives us this view that I have on the left side of the screen that tells us what is the project going to look like. So why is this important that we start with these small systems and we build for ourselves? In my own school, I find that I started building applications for others quite quickly. And in doing so, my own skill set developed and I grew in that experience. But the people around me were using these apps, but they weren't gaining their own experience. So I talked to my administration. I said, let's do 10 minutes. Let's do small incremental steps that people can learn a little bit at a time and implement right away. And so this now, with this random name generator here, in a 10-minute meeting, I can go from Matt used to build this for me to now I can build it. And I can change it to the way that I want it to look in terms of color, font size, group size, etc. So for a 10-minute in-service, this could be at lunch, it could be during a staff meeting, it could be optional, that everybody comes with their device and I help facilitate and share the resources that I have shared also with you about how to prompt your AI tool and the directions on how to go about creating this on your own. The important part of this, though, is not only is this tool simple that we could do it in 10 minutes, but it's starting to build the discipline to build more complex systems. By learning these small incremental steps, we learn about these parts in separate ways. And so we have data, logic, and an HTML interface. Then if you feel more confident and you feel that you're ready to experiment, you can build systems that have more and more files and complicated situations that you want to solve. But by starting small, we're building ownership and that confidence, and you can iterate to continue to grow in your skills. So my advice for you is you head out into this wild world of vibe coding with AI. Yes, you can have big ideas, but don't think that, oh, I can't complete that big idea, so why even start? Start with the smallest tool that can help you. Learn from that tool and think about what you learned from that to use it for future designs and iterations as you continue to vibe code with AI. The next tool that you might build might be more complex or refine what you did before to give you a better product for your needs. So as always, we build better systems by starting with ourselves, and ourselves is building that confidence to experiment, to the discipline to try, and the resilience to iterate and learn new things. You can find all the material for this show on the Google Drive folder that's shared with you. It has this presentation. It also has the instructions to create your own random name picker. You can find me on LinkedIn at the link that's provided. I'm on Substack, where I post 2 to 3 times a week about different things in AI and what I'm thinking about education. And I also have my own website at matthewignash.com, where you can see additional pieces of my work. Thank you for joining, and I wish you the best and good luck. And please reach out if you have questions. I'm happy to support all those that are new and trying to enter this world of vibe coding. Thank you. Hello, my name is Matthew Ignash, and thank you for joining this session here. I am a science teacher at the American International School of Chennai, and I'm excited to share with you another 10-minute in-service that I've done with teachers here about the idea of quick checking for understanding with your students. We've been able to do this before with just using thumbs up, thumbs down, a 1 through 5 rating, You might give out a sheet of paper that students are able to self-reflect, or have some kind of Kahoot-like game. But what would happen if you wanted to create your own live poll that you can project in the screen, and your students could access it from their device? This one has been set up so that you can do it in an anonymous, but you could, in theory, add your class roster so it records which student recorded what, and you can get a understanding of their misconceptions. So this session here is building off of the idea that you have a little bit of an understanding already with Google Sheets, as you will need to have a Google Sheet that is going to support this. There's documentation on how to build the whole thing in the folder that's shared with you. You will need to create a Google App script, and if you are unsure how do you write script, no worries. The guide will walk you through it and provides the script to do so. And then the last component of this is going to have two different front end screens. There's going to be one that your students will use, and there's the live view that you will have as a teacher. You'll get to see what that looks like in a side-by-side as I demonstrate a little bit later. But the directions show how to create that and how to access the different views. Where is this connected? This is building off of skills that are related to the random name picker that I've done another 10-minute service with my staff. And so you can also find that information here if you want to go back and build your own random name clicker. So what is this for here? Is it gives us more information that's just thumbs up and thumbs down. It gives you something that is recorded, because the number of times I've asked for feedback from students and then 10 minutes later I've forgotten it because we've started class. And so now you have something that you can go back and revisit later to see what the understanding is. So this tool has two different faces to it. The student view could be accessed on their laptop. It could be accessed on an iPad or their phone. And that is the question with the options. And then the teacher view just has a live update that is going to give information regarding the percentage or number of students that have selected each of those topics. So how is this built here is that we are adding a second interface. So the application itself is using one set of code for the back end that's connecting your Google Sheet. And then on the front end, there's two different views so that you can have your own that you share with the students by projecting, and they can have theirs where they select their options similar to Kahoot. Couple of other things that are built into this so that it works properly is that if you have 30 students trying to submit all at once, it may skip out on recordings if they've come too close together. So this code here is written in a way that it will store those votes for a period of time so that nothing gets lost. And then the other thing that it does is that it is going to update the percentages based on the number of votes and for the votes for each topic. You can easily change the question. For a simple view, I recommend just doing one question. If you want to start adding additional questions in, you could update the app so it allows you to change to the next question. But you can see here that when I go ahead and click on carbon dioxide, it updates the application in real time, and so you could easily see what do your students know, what are they not understanding, and where those misconceptions might be. This is based off of, on the back end, that it is collecting the time, it is not recording a name, and the answer that that individual has collected, with the settings serving as the place where the question is being developed. So you can change this for any activity and have a very quick. So what is it that we also have to do when we deploy this is that if you were following for the name picker, that one is just for the teacher. This one, our students are going to use it. And so to make it easy, and because we're doing anonymous, I've allowed it to be deployed as anyone. You could limit it to your institution by selecting that option when you go to a web deployment. As I said before, it's going to lock the write. So if there are multiple votes at one time, it's not going to overwrite before it goes to the next row. And this has been designed to be anonymous. You could either share the link for the students or a QR code guiding them to it. So why did I design it this way? In this version here, it only allows for one question per application. And that's because this is the simplest thing that can be shipped. And once you learn how to make this application, the next step of that, if you want to have multiple questions, is adding navigation for going from one question to the next. Because everything else then is set up the exact same way. So you could, at a later point, do question banks and do a short quiz. You could run several polls at a single time where the students are either self-paced or guided by you. You can limit it to their login so you can see exactly what they know, what they don't understand, or even allow short answer questions to be used. So if you've been following with my other build with the random name clicker or anything else, I always like to present these things at one small incremental step at a time for my staff, because the way we learn is by adding one thing at a time. And if you try to do too many steps at a time, you lose the understanding that goes with what you've built. So what is this adding compared to the first in-service here is that it's still using a Google Sheet. It's still using a single Google app script, but now we have two different HTML files, and we are allowing multiple writings to the spreadsheet at one point, and you have a live view that you're working with. So my advice is always build it small, keep it yours, then build the next step. And we build better systems by starting with ourselves. The link for this directions, the presentation, the video is in the Google Drive folder that has been shared with you. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Substack, and my website, MatthewIgnash.com. Thank you for joining.
My background is I'm a former languages teacher. I taught French for 13 years, 3 years at secondary school level, and then 10 years at middle school level. But my vibe coding adventure, it started off with languages. I did a bit of playing around with Gemini Canvas and made a few simple things. But then I decided I wanted to take it to the next level. And I decided, as you do, I was going to vibe code a Chrome extension. I had no idea how to do it. I just basically worked it all out between ChatGPT and Perplexity. And then in December of last year, after about 3 or 4 weeks of hard work, I published my Chrome extension, which I've called My Productivity Dashboard. And there's a nice little image, which is supposed to be me looking at my productivity dashboard. So I can share the link with everyone in the chat a bit later on, but I'm just going to show you live what I actually did. So let's first of all have a look at it. So it looks like this. So essentially, the way that it works is every time you open up a new tab, this will appear. And the idea is it's supposed to boost your productivity. All of these buttons are programmable, as in you can put in your favorite websites that you go to regularly. Some of them are a bit niche. For example, for people that don't know, I live on the Isle of Wight. So I've got the Red Jet timetable here. For example, if I click on that, it will open up a PDF of the red funnel timetable, as you can see. But I've got lots of others there, such as my emails, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky, WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. And I just find this incredibly useful. So that's one section of the Chrome extension. And then another one, which I find really useful, is here along the top here, you've got these sort of hotkeys for searching. So if I click on Google Drive, you can see it says search Google Drive. And if I write in my productivity dashboard like that, making sure I spell it correctly. Let's do that again. My productivity dashboard. There we are. And then I just press enter. And it will now search my Google Drive straight from my productivity dashboard. Okay, so it will search my productivity dashboard. There we are, like that. And this is doing, there we are, and it's all there, right? So if I now go into my folder, my productivity dashboard, you can see all the different iterations. I've got about 50 iterations. I would recommend anyone getting into this, always back up. When you've got the latest stable version, back up save the file. And here I've got a JSON file, which I'm going to explain in a second. So that's what I did. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the extension. So here you click on the pen tool. You can then write different things here very easily. It saves it automatically. So then you open up the following day, it's all there. You can also click on the to-do list as well, like this, very much like Google Keep. And then you can put a tick there to show that you've done the activity. You can copy everything and paste it somewhere else. You can delete it. You can start again. You can then just close it like that. The next thing I want to show you is we go into what I've decided is called edit mode, right? So I went for scissors for edit mode. So you click on that, and then what you can do is you can, for example, click on the plus icon here. Then you put the name of the website you want to go to, you put the URL, and then you get to choose a color. You can choose either, say, something like yellow, and then you can click select all, and then they all go yellow. Can you all see? So you can really color code this to your heart's content. If I then click cancel like that, another thing that you can do is you can click on A to Z, and that puts everything in alphabetical order like that. You can also color code, let's have a quick look. If I click here and I decide that's going to be this sort of color and click save, and then I'm going to choose this one, it's going to be this sort of color like that. And then I click here. What it will do is it will organize the biggest number of items in a certain color first, and then the ones which are a smaller number will be second. So in other words, you can color code the different buttons according to productivity. On, let's say you want all your email things, all your social media things a certain color, all your emails a certain color, your things to do with Google a certain color, Microsoft a certain color, and you can organize everything really nicely. And then if you want to make everything the same color again, you just choose that color and click select all and click save like that. Okay, right. And then here, if you click on the change theme, you can change the theme to other things as well, like that. I just particularly like this one, which is why I've gone for that one. And then you can also then go out of edit mode. And once you've done that, or likewise, sorry, with edit mode, if you click on the plus icon here, you can then put in a new search item, and you just put all the content in that way. So here I can search the Chrome Web Store. If I were to, if I go out of edit mode and I go to Chrome Web Store and I put in something like brisket, if I go, so brisk teaching, if I put in brisk teaching like that and press enter, it takes me straight to the Chrome Web Store. Yeah, so it's really helpful. And then other things like iPlayer, I can search for programs on iPlayer, BBC Sounds, Just Watch, things like that, Amazon, etc., etc. So I've really thought carefully about the buttons that I wanted to include within this. I've got a help guide as well, like that. So it just goes through and tells you the functionality of all the different buttons. You can also export your dashboard as a JSON file. There we are. Let me put that on the desktop. So you can call that whatever you want. So you can have different configurations. You can share your theme with someone else, and then you can then click here, and then you can then import it, either your own one or someone else's one. You can import it into your dashboard. So from there, I'm now going to show you how to download it. So to do that, I'm going to, here we are. So I've made this Get Started guide. So what you do is you click here, and you click here, and that should take us to, there we are, take us to the latest version of my productivity dashboard. So we'll just let it load. Okay, and then you click download here, like this. There we are. That should now download. There we are. So I'll put it on my desktop, like that. And then what you do is you go to the folder, like this, and then you right click, and you click extract all. Like that. Okay, there we are. And then you go to extensions. So it's Chrome // extensions. You make sure developer mode is turned on. You go to load unpacked. You go to here, and you click select folder. There we are. And now I go to a new tab. Oh, that's not right. No, I must have done the wrong one. Hang on, let's do that again. So let's do that again. So load unpacked. Let's go back to the desktop. So it must be that one. I thought it was, okay. Let me just try that again. It's, I think it's this one. Let me try again. Yeah, there we are. Phew. Right, so now you can see I've got the keep it or change it back. So if I were to keep it, it would look like this. So this is the default one that you get, and then you can then program it, customize it however you want. But because I like my one, and I've spent, even though I've backed it up, obviously, I'm going to click change it back, and it will then go back to what it was before. Right.
We are going to have to wrap up in a second. I'm sorry, Joe. Is that okay?
That's fine. I just want to show you this.
Yep.
I made a productivity dashboard infographic with Notebook LM, which gives you all the instructions of all the different things that you can do with this. And I think that is everything. So thank you ever so much, everyone. I'm really enjoying the session. I hope you found that useful. So I will stop sharing right now and stop sharing. There we are.
Hi there, hopefully everyone can hear me. Hi, I'm a physics teacher. I'm working at a school in South Wales there. I've no prior experience of coding other than trying to type programs into a ZX Spectrum many years ago, and that's about my level really. But in November, I was on the physics teaching forum that I helped run, PTNC, and chap Ed Lloyd mentioned that you could use VibeCoding maybe to create some simulations for experiments, and that got me thinking. And over Christmas, I started putting things together there. So I'm just going to try and see if I can share my screen. So really I've been looking at this from a point of view of physics experiments, apps and simulations, things that you can make with AI, things that we've been very lucky in physics to have programs made by places like Colorado where they've got the PhET project in the past, but there are often topics that just don't have any simulations, or they're difficult 3D concepts that students struggle with, and no matter how hard I looked online in the past, I couldn't really find something that met that need then. So that's where I've been coming from really. As I say, it began with a forum post on the PTNC there in November, so not that long ago really. So building simulations and apps to try and enhance the learning of students, and in various different scenarios that students are going to come at you from. So they might have missed a lesson, they might be revising, that type of thing. I'm not trying to do this to replace practicals in any way really. It's just really to complement practical work really. Also, you can tackle misconceptions pretty nicely with some of these apps with a bit of care as well. And as I say there, it's far more vivid than stuff that can be sketched hurriedly on a whiteboard, and hopefully, you know, the important points will go into the students' minds better when they can visualize it in 3D, that kind of thing. So I've been pretty prolific with it, and I've built over 100 apps now that are physics related on the website. They're all sort of sorted by topic at the moment. And this is some of the rationale behind it. So trying to visualize things small, microscopic phenomenon, that kind of thing. I've got some references there to papers about some of these things. Tackling student misconceptions in physics, which are in every topic, there are things that are common misconceptions. But also, you know, there is a part of it that's to fit a packed curriculum. So sometimes we do demonstrations where we could have done class practicals, and I know every school's different, and you know, everyone has got a different sort of time frame to get things done. So and especially if students are away, you know, instead of missing a whole practical, then they can always recap by using some of these demonstrations, because you can take data on quite a lot of them essentially. From my point of view, I think the main barrier for most people outside of the computing community is probably just writing a prompt in the first place. I often get people asking me, what type of prompt do you use? And I try to share freely any prompt that I've used. I think that's just a barrier to people, to sort of novices to get started. So far, I started off using Gemini because I've got a YouTube channel, and I think it became free with that, a Gemini Pro version. I've tried to use Copilot a bit and a little bit of Canva. But most lately, I've been using Claude and ChatGPT mainly, because I think in my field, I think the visuals are a lot easier drawn using those particular AI tools. Things like Gemini, you know, it comes across sometimes the screen like you've used Paint with your left hand if you're a right-handed person, and it comes up with very, very primitive images. But Claude has probably been the best for me in the work that I'm using at the moment. Been using projects lately as well, where you can upload files and you can store the work in the projects and come back to it and refine. As you say, they're refining and repeating. But essentially, all I've been doing is, from the early days, is saving as HTML and then opening it in browsers and putting it on various websites then to share with people. And so there's a basic starter prompt there, but most of the prompts would be maybe a long paragraph, essentially. I think it's really important to make sure that, so you don't get junk coming out, especially when you're looking at school courses, to make sure that it's aligned with a specific exam board, because often stuff comes out that's fairly generic from whatever sources the AI is using. I've just got two brief examples. They're quite old examples from early coding work. So a Hertzsprung-Russell diagram that I'm an interactive one. It's quite a difficult topic in astronomy. It doesn't really come across very easily there on the screen because the graphics are quite small there, but it's an interactive starter where students can decide where stars are placed on this kind of sorting diagram, essentially. And that's been really useful to use as an interactive starter and revision. And it's sparked a lot of curiosity with students. You know, obviously the names of some stars are quite evocative, and they've gone and looked up information about it and then come in the next lesson with some information to share with the class. So that's been really nice. I've done quite a lot of work on heat transfer, so a lot of simulations of macroscopic phenomenon, like we've got on there, about cooling curves there, essentially, of different beakers. But then alongside that, I've got microscopic simulations which kind of model how conduction, for example, would work in metals with free electrons and stuff like that, and ions vibrating. These are things that students really struggle to visualize. I should have really put it in this particular presentation here, but I've had a lot of positive feedback on that from both staff and students, because it is something that's often an issue with students trying to visualize what's going on. So it's making difficult concepts a little bit more readily understood, really. And these are some of these sort of scenarios where I've used these things. Very recently, in fact, the last couple of days, we've had internal exams here in Monmouth, and I created some interactive mark schemes, mainly for students who missed, because today I went over a paper and a couple of students were absent, so I'll send them the interactive mark scheme and I can check that they've done it, and hopefully they'll get a bit more out of it than me just sending a mark scheme on Teams to them, essentially. Right, so some honest bits here. Sometimes you will hit a wall. I did try and create an all singing, all dancing circuit simulator fairly early on, but I've had to shelve that a few times. There is a chap though, Nigel Hanbury's got a website called Dr. Hanbury Physics, and he seems to have cracked it, but his app on circuits is amazing, but it's something like 20,000 lines worth of code, which must have taken a lot of tokens, I imagine, to build. So what I've tried to build is sort of small bespoke sims that just fulfill a certain purpose. So instead of all of circuitry, for instance, they're just focused on potential dividers, which is an aspect of A-level physics, and internal resistance. And I think the students find them a little bit more easy to use then when it's just on a specific topic. Always got to check the output that comes out, because often it's wrong and it might not be appropriate for your particular exam board, for instance. And I think that, you know, it can be quite addictive. That's another thing to be honest about, really. I think, you know, you've got to be careful you don't get carried away with it. I know some of us on the physics forum have been staying up into the night, especially when they've gone and sort of paid their own money to try and use some of these sort of high token packages like Claude Max or something like that. You feel it as though you need to get that done then. Oh, I think was that a beat to say I finished? Yeah. Oh, there we go, and there we go to finish off. If you want to find out anything more, then there are the links there, and there's a little how-to video as well.
Hi there. Would you like to create your own HTML simulations using Gemini on any topic? Well, this is the video to watch. Now I'm going to put in a prompt here to make a simulation on the physics topic of resultant forces. So started off saying what I want, a HTML simulation. What I want to start off with a square where we can input the size of each of the forces and which direction, and then a box for the user to guess the answer, and then some illustration to show whether they're correct or not. So let's give that a whirl then. So just thinking about it for now. Now sometimes it creates sort of spurious outputs here, can sometimes give you an image, for instance, which isn't what you're looking for. You're looking for a code. So sometimes you might have to remind it. So here we go. It is creating a HTML file, and nicely it's a single file. Sometimes it also creates JavaScript and CSS files on a HTML file, which I find a bit messy because I'm not a coder. So I ask it again, can it just put it into a single file for me? Now, the code is being put on the screen here. Now, I wouldn't copy at this stage. I'd make sure the whole code has been put in first, okay? So it's still putting it in now. Because if you jump the gun and copy, then you're not going to copy the full program. Okay. So it's quite a long program there. So now I know that it's ended there. So if I press copy there, and if you've got a notepad open, you can paste it into notepad and then save as, and make sure you change it to all files, because I want the file type to be HTML. So I'll call it resultant. If I can spell it. .html, and save it there. And then hopefully if I minimize these, it should be on the desktop. There we go. So kind of what I wanted there. Okay, so you've got 5 newtons there. We'll have 5 there just to cancel those out for now, and then we'll have a large resultant on this side and a smaller one on this side. Okay, so hopefully we can just play test this now, see whether, so it should be 8 newtons then, I guess, to the left, or in this case the west. Let's check that. Yes, there we go, 8 newtons to the west. Now there's a bit of refinement we can do here. Maybe make this a little bit larger, this screen here. Now, one useful thing, if it goes over the screen and you need to scroll, as it is in this case, is you can alter the aspect ratio, for example. Okay, but you can always just keep going back to the prompt then. Okay, so if I go back to the prompt, then we can refine that a little bit. Okay, so hopefully that's given you an idea of how you can start with these kind of things.
So today I'd like to talk about anti-gravity, and this is for those people that are using Gemini, or you're using Claude, or you're using something, and what you're finding is that you're hitting the limits. You know, for example, you would like something with images, you would like something that has some kind of database behind it and that kind of thing. And so anti-gravity enables us to do these things, and it's available from antigravity.google. Personally, I like a little bit more control within that, so I am using the anti-gravity IDE, and I've been using it for about 6 months now. Now I'm on a Mac, but also it works equally well even on a very old Windows laptop, and I've actually got it on both, and it's really handy. And so when you start the anti-gravity IDE, you get a look like this. Now, if this looks intimidating, fair enough, and this is really for you to start. Now, what I'm going to do is open a folder. As you can see, I've already made quite a lot of games and pieces here. Okay, so here we are. Here is my Explorer, and this is the index. Now, if up till now you've just been doing single file things in either Canva or Gemini or something like that, then this is probably the thing that you're seeing, is you're doing this. And if you want to expand, you want to add images, you want to do things like that, then all you would do is possibly put this into index.html, and then you can put it straight in. The thing about this is now that we can use more than one file or another, and I do have a tutorial to help you do that, but today I just want to give you a bit of a tour guide so you can see how your journey can continue. So in this case, this is the thing that you would get, and you can see it's a nice healthy 380 lines. Now, the next piece of advice I want to give you is try to keep your code below 1,000 lines, because you'll use a lot more tokens the longer the code gets, and if you can keep things in different areas, that's really good. So we've got index.html, you've got guide.html. These are the two files that we've got here, and we've got the data itself. But also notice that we have JavaScript, which is the code doing all the work. We have images, and we have CSS. Now, Google and Gemini can directly make the images here. But what I would suggest for you, and this is a bit of a cheap trick, is to use Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever it is you want to make your images, and then just copy and paste them in here. And then you're not using your valuable tokens, which will be quite limited on the free thing. So we have this all here for you. And you can start to generate and play and improve things. Now, how do you actually make these improvements? Well, over here, we have ThinkRank Studio, and you can pick from a series of models. Now, that doesn't just, even though this is a Google project, you can actually try out Claude here, and you can try the various Gemini models. I don't know how long Claude will be available for. It's fairly limited what you can do with these things. Now, this is actually a full IDE, and it's based on VS Code. So there's lots of extensions available to you here. And you can see I've already installed quite a lot. For Python, it probably will include everything that you need. Let me just go through. Quite a few of these probably won't make too much difference. But the one extra one that I have installed is Live Server. And what that does is it creates a server for you without any extra effort. So you install Live Server and you can see your web pages as if they're on the server. So now all I have to do is click the right button, open with Live Server, and there you are. This is literally a server running off my laptop. Now, within my Wi-Fi, I can even test this out on my iPad, on my iPhone, so long as I'm within the same Wi-Fi network. So that's already a real time saver because it enables me to check if this particular thing is going to work on my iPad. And luckily for me, this does work on my iPad and is really happy. And what I have here is something I'm very happy with. But I want to show you how we can start to play. So let's have a look at the JavaScript. So this is the part doing all the work. Got the layout, but also notice I've separated my data here from the actual code. And this is really important because AI happily messes around with all of these things here. So at the moment, we've got computer science, we've got mathematics, science, history, business and strategy, product management, personal management. So because this is a multi-thing, I can type IAT and I can actually say, look, I really just want you to play with the data.js. And I think I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, what really is missing here? Could you make some diamond 9s on economics for A-level? And here we go. Now let's pick this close. Challenge, I don't think it's particularly difficult. So I'm just going to use the cheapest one, which is Gemini 3.5, the low usage. So let's see what it does and see if it happily works on it. So we are really playing with the code right now, but this one at the moment is not live. And that's the other thing is that we're doing here. And as you can see, it's almost instantly done this. But there's a few things that are important here. It gave me the choice to accept it. It gave me the choice to check it. But also, I've separated my data from my code. So at no point was it messing around with my code here, which I'm really quite happy with. And really happy with what's going on. So let's see if what I did worked. Well, firstly, it didn't play with any of these things here, but it did add an economic subject. And I'm just really want to emphasize with you today is that as your coding gets better, as you do really well and you start to hit those limits, there is a route to you still using VibeCoding without having to go down the whole programming route.
It's been great listening to what other people have been building. And yeah, like many of you, I've been very excited to just have my creativity unlocked. Like as teachers, of course, as professionals, we're always thinking about how we can scaffold learning for our students. And then it's like, finally, you can create those things that you always wanted. I started this place here. This is my new biology website. I just wanted a place where I could kind of house all the millions of apps that I kept building and kind of also blog about a bit about how I approach the course, because as I teach in an international school in Switzerland and I'm the only IB biology teacher, and I feel like a lot of international teachers get siloed and you're on your own, you've not really got anyone else to bounce ideas off. So it's nice to read about how someone approaches the curriculum. And here's my little 3D cell. It's not completely most accurate biologically speaking. But I like how when I scroll through it pulls apart, and I've built a whole bunch of study apps. It started with something called Cramly, which I've got up here, which is like, if anyone knows Anki, it's spaced repetition. However, my students are a bit lazy. The ones that needed to use it just like wouldn't use it. So I ended up like writing 900 flashcards using AI to help me at the same time, but like, and then built this with my students, like lots of functionalities, like some people have been saying already before, like, you know, like how you, Emma, had your year 8s building stuff for themselves. Like this became like a class project where they were like, can you add a bit where we can tick boxes and we can review whichever flashcards we want? Can you add like a browse function? And it's just based on the Anki model of, which is leaning into the spaced repetition for the forgetting curve, where they can then self-assess how well do they know something. And because biology at this level, yes, there's lots of conceptual stuff, but if they haven't got the vocabulary, if they haven't got the basic facts down, if they haven't memorized that stuff before they come in the classroom, it becomes a lecture, and it becomes like heavily so, especially with the learners that I have. So this is where I started. And where I am now is building a community at a place called Free Period. We have a podcast that we do every week. My friend Shane, who's the guidance counselor at the school here, so he comes from a completely different perspective as well, and the things we talk about. We at the moment are massively into trying to share projects. Our idea is that this is like, we're hoping it become like a community hub, like teachers pay teachers, but where people are sharing their GitHub repos. So here's like 2 that we've just put in as we start populating it, and also our skills and our prompts. For instance, like I stuck one in the other day for like lab companions, because, you know, like it's nice in Claude when you've had that conversation to create a skill at the end of it where you don't have to start from scratch every time. And I think that's something that we can share as teachers really nicely. And then the thing that I was going to talk about today, I want to just give an overview of where I've been at, is called Splicer. So Splicer came about, I actually spent some time in like Web3, which would be like the crypto verse. I was presenting on spaces, I was working with projects, and so I discovered VibeCoding there. And that's probably why I've got this like sci-fi-esque theme. And my students were like, you know, you're creating this very much for yourself. This is so millennial. But my idea was that I've got a whole bunch of different games within here. And it's like a Kahoot, but I didn't like Kahoot because the same person always wins. And we always had this one dominating student. And I was like, okay, so let's see if I can build something collaborative. Yeah, I do buy all the URLs that I'm posting from. I get a bit excited. And then, for instance, here I've built quite a few games now. This isn't something that I've pushed. I've just let it kind of grow organically. There's only maybe 30 users of it. Cramly has like 800 users. But like, and I didn't like gate that or anything. I thought, you know, why not just help more people? Whereas, so with this, it's like, I've got this idea of a boss battle where everyone's working together to defeat a boss. Without hosting a game, I can't show the animations of it, but it's quite fun. It's like very sci-fi-esque. I've got one where it's like pass the bomb, and they just throw a bomb at each other. So this is fun, but of course, like this is my favorite, where it's like hot seat, where one kid takes on the class, and everyone's trying to kill them. And they've got like a shield up for every right answer that they have. So I got really into the gameplay and creating these different scenarios for the students. But then what also excites me, and I've actually got a HTML presentation about this, but I'll just give a quick demonstration. The bit that excites me as a teacher is I used to spend ages making formative assessment stuff like bingo, crosswords, word searches, domino cards, because like as a dad that has 2 young kids, when I'm jacked up on coffee, when I come into class at 8:01 and the class started at 8 o'clock, I need something on their desks so that my SLT are like, okay, he's late every day, but he walks in the door and he's ready to go. You know, I did have that conversation one time. So I created I used to spend like 3 hours making domino sets and stuff. Let's see if this it's gonna not freeze on me right now. I was just dragging in a picture. But the idea is that with very few prompts, I scaffolded an AI generator on here that I can then create. And what's going on? Wait, maybe I just won't add the picture because it doesn't like me doing that right now. But I could just say like focus on definitions for this topic. Doesn't even mind if I spell it wrong. And it wants to make sure I've given it the right topic name, which was and then I will generate a few cards. So this is using just the Claude Heiko model. And then I find that the questions are pretty good. I have to edit maybe 1 or 2 of them. So I can add that to this card set. Within the generation, I've also got the idea that it could be in English, French, Spanish, English to French. And, you know, like when you start thinking, oh, can it do this? Can it do this? It's unbelievable the amount of things that you can start adding. And the bit that saves me time, so like I've gone through this rabbit hole of making a million different apps. And now I'm like, how do I actually remove friction so that I am not just bombarding my students with more and more apps from myself? So I can hit a download, and this is the bit that I think is unique. Last thing, I hit download, and then I can just hit dominoes, and boom, as quick as that, I have this thing that used to take me 3 hours to make.
Welcome to a super brief Canva code demo within your free Canva education account. I'm Jo, and as well as being an educator for more than 20 years in Australia, I'm also Australia's Canva learning consultant. Before we get started, let's have a brief overview on what Canva education is. If you can imagine a one-stop shop for all your content creation, Canva education has you covered. It is used by more than 100 million students and teachers worldwide using free product across 20,000 different schooling systems. You have more than 250,000 educational resources that are completely customizable and completely free to use. And the absolute best part of it is that it is free, because we believe education is a human right. It's so much more than a place to make a pretty poster for your classroom wall. You can jazz up your CV within there. You can create your digital stickers that you can then embed in your learning management system. It's a wonderful place for your students to be able to demonstrate their understanding and work within collaborative whiteboards, but it's also got a whole bunch of AI functionality, and we're going to dive into one of those tools today. And that tool is called Canva Code. Now, if the idea of the word code is absolutely foreign or terrifying to you, rest assured that Canva makes it completely accessible for you and your students to build any type of tool or digitized learning experience simply through a written prompt. So what is Canva Code? It's an incredible tool that allows you to create digital interactive learning experiences. All you have to do is type in what you want. You do not need to learn how to code because Canva will do all of that for you in the back end. So let's explore together. Type in bit.ly/Canva code for me within your internet browser. This site is full of demo examples of content that I've built for different learning areas across both primary and secondary schools. Take a moment to explore this page, jumping in and out of the different key learning areas and checking out some of the different tools that I've created with a simple prompt. You can see here that I've got a game of Hangman that my students can come on in and start to play a game independently. For our creative and performing arts educators, check this out, your own piano and even your own drum kit. Not forgetting all the other incidentals outside of your key learning areas, but we also have some classroom management tools, brain break activities, gaming, and classroom organisation stuff. But I've also included some home management ideas that can also be used within the classroom as well. Now let's jump on in and have a go at building one ourselves. From our home page, you're going to come down the left-hand side and find the button that says Canva AI. If you can't see it there, hover over the More and you'll be able to access from there. Now you'll be able to click on the Code button, and do remember that the accessibility of this for both teachers and students is determined at a local school level. Clicking on Code, here's the prompt that we can write to ensure the best output first go. Consider the type of tool that you're trying to build. So we want you to think about the subject or the thing that it's going to do. Then we need to break it down into what it can do and how the person or the user is going to interact with it. Finally, consider the design. Let's go in and build our own now. I've typed in here to build a dad joke generator for younger children to share with their dad on Father's Day. It's going to have more than 50 jokes and include a laugh and a groan button for feedback. The data is going to be collected in a sheet, and I want it decorated with large transparent emojis, and it will spray emoji confetti when the laugh and groan button are tapped. Make it colourful and fun for the younger audience and build it within a landscape presentation size. Let's click go and watch it come to life. You'll see it starting to code right here, and it'll only take a couple of minutes depending on how long or detailed your prompt is. Now check this out. We have our own dad joke generator with it clearly displayed. I can give some feedback. I can see the confetti, and I can also check out my data in a sheet up the top here. When I'm ready to share this, I can hit Use in a Design and Open within a presentation. Then I can head on up to the top right-hand corner, select Share, turn this into a public view link so that it's accessible by everybody, not just those with a Canva Education account. Copy and paste that into a new browser or turn it into a QR code for later retrieval. You'll find a greater breakdown of how to open and publish your widget and share with others within today's presentation. Before we go, let's make sure that you're well equipped with lots of support to help empower you in your use of Canva Education. We have from the homepage a Canva Design School, which has all of your helpful hints, tips, tricks, and even certifications to support you in your Canva journey. This includes a short half-hour Canva code course that'll help run you through all of the basics in greater detail. We also have an AI in the Classroom course and a Student Skills course as well. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you're able to build some incredible widgets. Would love for you to reach out and share them with me on LinkedIn.
I'm Sarah Cooper. I'm a teacher of health and social care at the sixth form Bolton. I'm a proud Canva ambassador and Canva trainer. Been teaching for 17 years and used Canva for about 18 months now.
Yeah, my name's Curtis Scott. I work alongside Sarah at the sixth form Bolton. I'm a learning technologist, course leader and teacher of sports and exercise science. And again, proud Canva ambassador and Canva trainer.
So what you've just heard from Joe very much leads into what we're going to look at and how we use Canva within the sixth form. And we're going to very much look at how we do what we used to do and what we do now. And this has been like a transformation since October that our college has taken over. We use Canva a little bit, but we've definitely, since we had a bit of training, well, a big day of training on it, we've definitely evolved of what we do and how we're using it across the sixth form.
Yeah, so what we want to do is jump into live examples from the classroom. So we're going to give you a bit of a snapshot of different subject areas, different courses, and how they've utilised Canva code specifically to transform their teaching, learning and outcomes at the end. So this is Jake. Jake teaches sport and exercise science alongside myself. This is just how we use before and after. So we've taken a traditional teaching method and utilised VibeCoding to make it a little bit more exciting for students and to reduce a little bit of teacher workload as well. So this is Jake. Jake used to use Post-it notes for a lot of his activities in terms of like key terms, key definitions, get the students to write it down, sometimes come stick them on the whiteboard. A job that would probably take 20, 25 minutes when you add it all up, giving the Post-it notes out, writing it down, and what we're getting back, we're getting a little bit of recall. So what he did was on Canva code, he created just a very simple, within about 20 to 30 seconds, matching term game. So this was all the key terms down the left-hand side, the definitions down the right-hand side, and it's all self-marked. That collates into a data sheet, which you've just seen on Joe's presentation, and he can check and highlight misconceptions from the students. So something that used to take 20-25 minutes in the classroom now takes around about 2 minutes.
Okay, that's me. So I'm health and social care teacher, and prior to 3 years ago, I was very paper heavy based, and then we went to a Canva Learning Lab last May and was introduced to Canva Code and totally changed how I teach. So I used to have A3 files full of paper, loads of revision notes in there for their exams. The college stopped you. I wasn't allowed to print anymore because I printed so much paper, and kind of wanted students to engage more in the revision. Was getting good results, students were happy, but something needed to change. So what we did was, rather than have all these lovely revision booklets, which were beautiful still in their own way, but just not very sustainable, I designed a website now. It's not how I'd necessarily do it now, and after seeing what everyone's done wonderfully today, it's definitely a different way of doing it. I literally coded the whole thing, which is not how I do it within Canva now. So like, there was 17 activities on there with video links, with feedback, with a spreadsheet attached, but my students can access that anywhere, and we're very much about our students having that they're always on the phones. We want that engagement constant with them, no downtime, and they can access this wherever they want. They love that they get a little badge at the end. So if we do 80% tests, so they get above 80 on it, it sends a badge to them, which then they share with me. As much as the sixth form students, they love getting like a sticker, and that's their way of doing it. But that was all created within Canva Code. The beauty of it is, as we've said already, what Canva Code does is store that data for you. So if I want to go back and update that, if something changes in the spec or I realise there's a gap in knowledge, I can go back and update that, and my students can access that all year round. And again, it's claimed on a spreadsheet, so I can track the data as it goes through. Shall I do maths?
Yeah, you keep going. Yeah,
So maths. Okay, so our maths team are great with their systems. They have very academic students. They like to plan things within a minute. These A-level students don't get a minute to breathe because their content is so heavy. So what they used to do is, if you can see on the left-hand side there, they have these hour by hour trackers. We've seen even more detailed ones, and they used to get them to shading what content they were looking at and how they were doing it. Now, again, these are still 16 and 17-year-olds, so that'd end up horrible in their bags, okay? Or it wouldn't come back to them, it wouldn't be kept to them, so they wanted a different way of doing it. So one of the ways that they did it was for some of the GCSE trackers, and that's how they started it, because it's slightly smaller, the spec. They created a VibeCoding sheet for them that every student had access to. It tracked what assessment they'd looked at, what they gained on it, track the progress as they went along, and the students could access that all the time, as well as the teachers. And they said it was used so much better by their students, rather than it being a piece of paper that was in the bag and they never actually looked at again. It was there, really great for sharing with the parents as well, saying, right, week 4, this is our focus, this is what you're going to be looking at. So kind of beneficial for teacher, parent, and child, which is wonderful. I'm going really quick, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, we are going quick because we know we're on a very strict time frame. So this is me. So for revision for sport and exercise science, traditionally we'll always go back to sort of default methods of flashcards, of mind maps, of rewriting notes. I'm going to call it all the boring stuff. So that's just a picture of an old school textbook that a student would sort of write stuff down. So in a class, I had about 5 students that were flying, performing really well. So I said, right, I'm going to introduce you guys to Canva Code. I want you to go on and I want you to have a play, explore, and I want you to be creative and create a revision tool that you will use, that you will find that useful, that you'll use, you know, as a bit of longevity behind it. So 2 students in particular really sort of stood out. The first one on the left-hand side created his own Rocket League game. So he could play Rocket League against the AI. When the AI scored a goal against him, it prompted to ask a more challenging sort of red question that we call it. When he scored against the AI, it would ask him a more green multiple choice, a little bit easier style question. Feedback from him was he used to then play it on the bus. He would play it at home. He's been fine tweaking it. He's been obviously vibe coding with the AI to tweak it and make it a little bit more challenging. He's since put a little stadium around it. So he's trying to like create a little atmosphere, a little environment. Because he said he's addicted to Rocket League. He plays it on his PlayStation all the time. So if he can utilize that for revision, amazing. On the right hand side, one young lad created a darts game. He was interested in darts, so again he was like throwing the darts at the dartboard, and it will prompt him asking him questions. But the main sort of thing I'll take away from this is the students were utilizing this in the dead time, like on the bus. Instead of doom scrolling on Instagram, they were playing these games, and they're purposeful, they're meaningful,
and they got something out of it. Next one, you want me to take, I'll take Carolina. Next one is biology. So traditionally when we create our schemes of work and our sort of like learning journey for the students, it's a little bit boring. It's just on a piece of paper, loads of text boxes. We're doing this week 1, this week 2, blah, blah, blah. Carolina popped that into Canva code and created a website. Now, within that website, she's now included links. She's got interactive videos, tools, things like that. And then she shares this with the students as well. So they've got a full access to the learning journey throughout the full sort of 9 months, 10 months that they'd be at the college in the first year or the second year. And they can interact with the scheme of work. Now, within the scheme of work, she's got revision workbooks, and like I said, she's got inbuilt videos, links, and so on, so the students can interact with her resources as they're progressing through, but not just in college, outside of college as well.
So this is something as our role as learning technologists that we have found really useful as well. Just a little bit off topic, but like, well, not off topic, totally on topic. We found that staff have become so much more creative because of vibe coding. It's taken away, it's been like somebody said earlier about spending hours making domino cards to make sure when to keep your students entertained at the start of the lesson. We found that people now go, actually, do you know what? I'll drop onto Canva code and I'll try and do it. And they do things that they'd never want to do before, never be scared to try kind of thing. So we've really found that staff have come out of their comfort zone and really want to try new things. And the vibe code, some people have said that it's taken away creativity. We definitely think it's making it flourish for learning for students and staff. One of our roles is that we share quick wins with staff. So we'll send out, Curtis loves an email, and it became a bit of a joke at the start of the year how many emails he would say. It's like people weren't getting the daily email. They were like, what's going on? So to try and stop people moaning at him for doing that, we actually created our own website as well, using Canva, but with code within that. And with all this, the main thing is that we have a blog now where staff share, and a lot of it is vibe coding, what they're doing, how they're using technology in the classroom. And it might not suit everyone this, but for us, it's really bred a culture of creativity and willingness to share where it goes right and where it goes wrong. And that's something for us that's worked really well.
Yeah, the biggest thing with that is the collaboration. We've now got a lot of staff from different departments sort of hooking up with each other. Now, when we used to do staff training, we used to be quite like, I'll sit with my team, you sit with your team, you sit with your team. And we've got 115 staff. So there wasn't much mixing and much collaboration, let's say. So now we're finding that, especially with this blog, we're getting a lot of staff coming up to us saying, can I share what I've done? I've tried this in the classroom. Can I try this and share it? And then when someone comes to us going, oh, I've seen Sarah's done such a brilliant job on this, well, go and speak to them. And there's a lot more of creativity, collaboration across subjects, which is brilliant, because especially as a sport and exercise science teacher, it's difficult going into an A-level maths class to try and say, do this, do this, do this. And they're like, sometimes there's a little bit of elitism, I'm not going to say, in certain subjects, because they are subject specialists. So by getting different departments to hook up and speak to each other, it's been really good. And the hub's just an amazing platform that, like I said, we've added a bit of code in the background that houses all of our digital support, and we can push that out to staff. And we've actually just introduced a student one, haven't we?
Yeah, it's so much great stuff from students. It's
Student
definitely yeah.
Oh, we've run out of time. I think.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cool. So ChatGPT is amazing. Its image generation tool is amazing. So I just gave it my face, and now it's put me in my slide deck. So you're going to see me appear on loads of different slides. Basically, what I was doing was I was making loads and loads of games in HTML, and then I was storing them on Google. So I would I'd create a game, get the HTML, upload it into Google Sites, the kids would play it, and then they'd say, sir, it'd be better if you did this. And then I'd have to take that HTML, I'd have to take it back to the AI, whichever one I was using. It could be Canva, it could be ChatGPT, whichever one, and then have a conversation, update the HTML, take on those kids' ideas, and then I'd have to rebuild it again. So I had this lovely workflow, but it kept on failing because I kept on copying and pasting HTML all the time and updating that HTML to try and get those updates that I wanted. So then I the copy and pasting was doing my head in. So then I basically got it to Netlify became the place where I hosted. And that was easier to get my HTML there. But it was still this copy and paste
scenario, and Miles is just gone now, mentioned GitHub, and I stumbled into GitHub, which allowed me to host the content that I was making, and then Netlify would then host it. But at the same time as I stumbled into GitHub, you know how, like, I don't know, I've been using ChatGPT since 2022. It's sort of like my buddy now. So I just said, so if I've got GitHub and I've got Netlify, can you communicate with GitHub live? And ChatGPT said, yeah, I can. So I was like, cool. So now all I have to do is I link the repository where I've stored the site in GitHub, and it's then hosted in Netlify, and then I just have a conversation with ChatGPT and it automatically updates the site for me. So the time that I've spent trying to improve my site has completely changed. I can do it very, very, very quickly, and I can have iteration after iteration as I decide what I want to do, and I can have a look at it and see how that goes, which is really, really useful. I'm going to demonstrate this in a minute anyway, so fingers crossed. I've seen everyone else do live demos, and they've either worked or haven't, so I'll get there in a minute. But this presentation is available. So that's the loop. I think of an idea, have a chat with ChatGPT, it links to GitHub, Netlify publishes it, and then we have a conversation with the students and we make improvements, and it just goes round and round in that loop until you get to where you want to be, which is phenomenal. So this allows me to prototype really quickly. This allows me to get loads of feedback from the students, and this allows me to also think about the pedagogy that I'm using and also gamifying it, because I like adding those hooks that get the kids to want to use it again and again and again. And in this slide deck as well, I've just gone through and done like a little Haynes manual style explainer. So I'll stop sharing this and I'll go to this page. Okay. This is my ChatGPT. So basically, I started at the beginning. I said, I'm going to be doing this presentation today and I want to make a quick game. And then it tried to connect to GitHub, but I hadn't actually set it up yet. So then I shared the link to GitHub, and it created my first iteration of the game. And when I had a look at it, all the right answers in the multiple choice were in the same square. So I've already gone back once and said all the right answers are A. So I need to, like, can you change that? So this is what it produced first and foremost. So I have this is a vocabulary quest test. You start the quest and you just like, it's command words for exams. So what does explain mean? And they can click on that and they say, yeah, it gives a reason. And then I can go to another one and says, what does compare mean? And you can say, say what happened in the future, but it tells me I got that wrong. So this is the first iteration of my game. So what I can now do is I can go back into chat and I can take a new prompt to start trying to sort of gamify it a little bit more. So as a good Blue Peter watcher, I've already prepared my prompt. I'll share this tab and let me just drop this in here. So there's a tab, and what I'm trying to do now is add a timer to the quiz, and I'm also getting it stored in the local storage. So if the kids use the same browser, it will remember what they did last time. So that'll improve, and so they can see their current time and their streak, etc. So let me just send that prompt and see what happens. So this will then really help me understand what's happening, but I'm just thinking, how long is this going to take to do? Because, and I love the conversations that you now see with ChatGPT, where it tells you what it's going to do, how it's going to do it, etc., etc. It's updating the style, it's updating the JavaScript, etc. And this is all happening on GitHub as well. So within the world of GitHub, it's now updating the HTML files, updating the scripts, etc., without me even seeing it happen. And I used to quite like that. I used to like quite watch Canva code, writing the code in front of me, thinking, God, that had taken me ages if I ever could have been bothered to type that much code. And now it's just doing it for me in the background. So hopefully in a second, it's going to update GitHub, and then we'll have an update on the actual website. But you know, live demos are always interesting, and when you've only got 7 minutes, it's always a bit of a risk. But here we go.
You've got a minute left. It's fine.
Have I? Okay, good. Let's see if we can do this. But you can do this with any of your AI tools. So if you've got Canva code, you can take the code from Canva if you want to, and then you can use it in with you into another AI like ChatGPT that links to GitHub, and that gives you this ability to then reiterate. Because I think, Emma, you said that sometimes Canva code, if you prompt once too many, it completely changes everything that you've done, and that can be quite disheartening, and you like get quite frustrated and you go, no, that version before was so much better. So this gives us a level of control. And I think I sit there thinking, this is taking forever. But imagine if you're doing this in real life as a coder, it would be taking weeks. So sometimes patience is quite nice. Let's just see if they'll do it. Sorry.
Just as the alarm just ran down. Come on, app. Come show us.
Come on, you can do this. Okay, it's fixing stuff. See, this is what happens. It checks everything, it's fixing everything, and maybe it's not going to work. This is live at its best.
Yeah, doing this with kids, it's quite interesting. It's like, have your slide ready to go on to whilst they go away and come back.
Yes, and maybe I should have had another version of this running in the background as well, because it's timing out for us, unfortunately. I have a habit of doing live demonstrations, and they're not always working the way I want them to. But let's see.
We think it's also really good, and that's what Gideon just said. He says it's nice to see something live because it's like real life, isn't it?
See, oh, there we go. It's done. It's done. So if I refresh, the awe and wonder moment. There we go. So I've got a best streak, best time yet. If I start it, justify, give reasons, next question, you can start seeing the time's going. And that, you know, I know we've done this in 7 minutes, but that's 2 minutes and I've got a new version of my game, and I can do it again and again and again to get loads of different iterations of what I've done. The time is running. I'm on current streak 1, my best streak. So yeah, I can go through and just click on each one of these and try and get them right. And my streak is increasing. And those streak ideas are very, very good hooks for students. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Niall. I work at Harland International School in Dubai, so very late evening for me here. Hopefully my slides are moving on. I'm going to take it as trust as they are. I'm not a coder or a computer scientist or anything like that. I'm a PE teacher by trade. I'm assistant head teacher in the school now. It's a big, busy school of 2,200 students, I think we have on roll now. So my journey into vibe coding started really out of panic. As you know, we had there's been a war going on, which has affected us. So we had long periods where we were stuck at home, couldn't be in the building. And then obviously that caused a little bit of shift in staffing. So one of the areas I look after is the after school program and the enrichment. So unfortunately our coordinator for that left, and we weren't in a position where we could replace someone because flights in and out of the country were difficult. So I ended up in just going down a little bit of a rabbit hole one evening, probably like a lot of people started, and then built a platform which did a lot of that work for me. It allocated things, it brought lists together, and it helped teachers just organize information that someone would have organized for them. That then led on to making a staff hub and completely building a new front end for the school, which was a bit of a rabbit hole again to go down. Lots of these things were built on Replit, and I really managed to take advantage of a day, I'm sure everyone else did as well, on Replit a few months ago, where all work on Replit was free. So man, I had my prompts lined up and got some cool stuff made. And then eventually we built an interactive room finder, which the students wanted, especially the ones who were newer to secondary school, where they could type in any location in the school that would show them where it was and what they had to do to get there. So lots of cool ideas. But the thing that I've enjoyed doing most on it has been building, as a lot of people have done, building cool games for students. And I'm going to try and go a little bit fast so I can actually maybe show some of them. I'm too going to risk the live demonstration. But this first game, and the point of making it was I had a mixed group of students who didn't have an enrichment. It was the sort of usual group. The parents hadn't signed them up for an activity. So I said I would take them and we'd try and do something cool together. So we ended up co-creating this game. And the idea of it was like a digital breakout room where it would test the digital skills that they had. A hacker was trying to break into the school network. Each time they demonstrated a different digital skill or a different skill or solved the problem, they would get letters to the password. and then they'd eventually crack it. And I thought I'd made something really cool. And then one kid did it in 3 minutes, which was the story of my teaching career. You think you're one step ahead, only to find out you're one step behind. But then we worked together, which was a really fun part, which a lot of other people have mentioned. And we constructed something that then took them the next 2 weeks of lessons to finish, because they overestimated their ability and where they were. But it really kind of pushed the learning on into the real outer limits. And we were able to do that in the moment in the lesson. Once they finished it, everyone came back together. We worked on the prompt together. We gave it some ideas, and then we put this together. I think for anyone who hasn't done this before, spending a little bit of time on your prompts is important. So I did also do here's one I made earlier. I spend a lot of time going back and forward on different platforms. So there's just a basic prompt. If you haven't done this before and you want to make an HTML game for students, there's just a basic prompt that I put in. And as you can see, it's not really even that structured. It's just a kind of jumble of ideas from my head that I'm trying to get into a platform. And then it came back. We went back and forth with some questions and saved hopefully quite a lot of credits. But you'll see from that simple prompt, will my video play? I'll hopefully be able to play it in real time. But you can see just from that simple prompt, we were able to make a really cool interactive game, which not only has pedagogical value, it puts in some misconception testers in there. It asks students to not just click on multiple choice, but they actually have to type into it. They can use hints, they can get a little bit of prompting as well. So you can see at the bottom, 4 minutes, 30 seconds to do that. So really cool outcome in a really small time investment. There's the back end that it shows teachers and it shows students at the end of it as well. So they get a little bit of evaluation, they get some prompts on where they might want to go next with their learning. So before I run the risk of playing the games, I think the most important thing on this is number 2. I think when you first do this, I think someone else mentioned it can be a little bit addictive and you want to kind of do this all the time. And sometimes you can throw the baby out with the bathwater, because this isn't the right solution for everything. It's not any better than any other gamified solution that's come across your desk at any point, where you're left scratching your head at the end going, well, engagement's good, but engagement doesn't mean necessarily better learning. So I think you have to start with the problem and make sure that technology is the answer, and don't just go there and go, how can we vibe code something today? And then spend a little bit of time building, testing, improving, repeating. And I think it's good for students to be able to see that process as well. So I'm going to stop sharing this one, and then I'm going to come out of it, and I'm going to try and show you one of the games that I think are cool. So I'm going to just go for an entire screen, so it might go a little bit funny for the seconds. So here's the Operation Firewall game. You can see the output's really cool. It looks, I think, sort of professionalish. It has the rules for the students there. You can see that the experience is nice for them. And then one of the first parts was to do with common passwords. So it's a way of gamifying password security and accessing information online that people might put in there, and how it would come together to make someone's passwords. And then the Mount Olympus Quest one was one that I just made for this. Again, you can see this is what the actual experience comes out for 4.5 minutes of investment after the prompt. You can get some really cool outcomes. So I think that's going to bring me to an end. So I'll stop sharing and then hopefully claw back a little bit of time. So there you go.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Matthew. I'm a science consultant for Harris Federation, which is a large multi-academy trust here in London. And Gideon has very kindly given me a few minutes to talk to you about my experience of AI and vibe coding simulations for use in science education. So I started about 8 months ago, and I really stumbled across this technology very much by accident. I was looking for a very specific wave pendulum, maybe an animated GIF or something that I could use in my lesson. I was doing pendulums at the time, and I couldn't find anything that I thought was going to be particularly useful. And I was just becoming aware of Google Gemini and vibe coding in general, and I thought, I'm going to have a go at making one. Let's see what this is all about. So that was my first experience at vibe coding. I thought I want it to be as as physics realistic as possible. I wanted it to make it as interactive as possible. So yeah, I really got carried away. I spent many hours on this. I was very inexperienced at vibe coding, and so I thought, well, like I said, I want to make it as interactive as possible. So I allowed the user to mess about with the number of pendulums, mess about with their maximum length, for example, even affect gravity, damping, etc. I wanted to make it as interactive as possible. And like I said, I got really carried away. And I thought if it was 3D, it would be great, because then the people could move around and zoom in and zoom out. And yeah, people were generally interested. But, you know, is it very useful? Perhaps not particularly useful in the classroom. So I started thinking, well, what could I do in the classroom then that maybe might be more useful? So through a conversation I was having with a teacher, I produced this. This is a moon phase simulation. Now, teachers have all kinds of difficulties, especially non-specialists, in explaining how and why the moon changes shape as it orbits the Earth. So I thought a simulation would be great for that. Again, it's a 3D simulation, so they can zoom in, zoom out. They can even have a look at the sun over there. And they can even, I thought, well, because I very much want these simulations to be able to kind of explore, be a real exploring opportunity, I thought it would be great if we could see the Earth from the moon. So I built it in. I don't know how to code that. Google Gemini, of course, did all the heavy lifting there. And I thought, well, what great opportunity actually to perhaps help teachers explore the idea of eclipses. So I added a button in which allows eclipses. So teachers can now show how, as the moon passes through the Earth's shadow, there's an eclipse, and as the moon passes in front of the Earth, or between the sun and the Earth, there's a shadow of the moon on the Earth, for example. Some of the barriers I hit on early doors were, so my prompting skills have got a lot better since then, but also AI has got a lot better since then. And I heard something recently which I definitely agree with, and that prompting is not the boundary now. AI has got so good it can interpret even poorly written prompts. The real barrier now is just what you can imagine. But prompting early doors was a problem. Making it as physically realistic as possible, I had to do a lot of checking, so I spent a lot of time doing that. There were a lot of mistakes. You know that when you produce something with AI, you have to check it very thoroughly. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And the other thing was sharing. So I was building these simulations and not having a way to share them very easily. People would have to download the code and send it as a file. They'd have to install it. It was all very clunky. So I came across this. This is one compiler, and it can work in all kinds of computer languages. But all my simulations are written in HTML. So I simply take my code from Google Gemini. I drop it into HTML. It then compiles it. It then deploys it. And then it gives me a link that I can then share with anybody. And because I don't have my own website, I needed a place to put these links. Otherwise, I'm just sharing them one by one, which is still pretty clunky. So I vibe coded my own website to host the simulations that I have vibe coded. So I thought that was a nice, neat little way of doing it. And this allows me to search for and organize them. And I can add new ones to this really very easily by just revisiting the code. So I thought, what else can I do that might be useful for teachers? Again, make this very clear. I do not want less practicals to be done in the classroom. I very much want to enhance what's already done in the classroom. But this provides an opportunity to do things that can't be done in the classroom. For example, the density column, a really lovely practical for pupils to do. and I really encourage teachers to do it with them. However, it's limited. But a simulation doesn't have to be limited in the same way. I can have almost as many layers of liquid as I like, and I can add them in and I can take them away. So I can make it it's very customizable. I can then choose whatever density of object I want, and I can just drop it in and see what it does. By the way, I was very insistent that this was physically realistic, so I asked it to even consider the viscosity of the liquids. So right now it's traveling through honey, which is extremely viscous, and so the ball behaves in an appropriate way. And something you can't do, of course, if you build a density column in the classroom, is you can't take aerogel, which is only available in the space industry, and you can't drop it at the bottom of the column in mercury, for example. Completely impossible to do in the classroom, but perfectly possible to do in a simulation. So I was very keen to just enhance practicals which may already be done in the classroom, and obviously include ones which can't be done in the classroom at all. And Gideon is very kindly offered to share this with you, and you're very welcome to use it as you like. And if you want to contact with me and discuss any of the, if you've got comments, I would be very welcome to hear them. But one that I found particularly useful, and you can see by how many times it's been activated, is this. I thought, what could I do that might really help my students, I'm thinking year 11 now, prepare for their exams? I thought, well, obviously in physics, I'm a physics consultant, there's lots of calculations. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could have a platform to support them with that? So I thought, again, let's vibe code one and see what we can do. So for example, I can choose between physics and combined science. I can choose between a calculator, which, by the way, it just allows me to choose any of the equations and then drop in any of the or all but one of the variables, and it will automatically calculate the third one, which is somewhat useful, but not extremely useful. I thought it would be extremely useful, however, to be able to have an infinite number of problems that they could try. So that's what we've got right here. So I can choose from any of the equations. I can then just keep clicking this button and it will just keep giving me brand new problems to try. I can make them more difficult by asking it for unit conversions, etc. And I just keep hitting this button. It will just keep hitting me with new problems. And because I've hit the multi-step calculation here, it wants me to do 2 calculations to get to the final answer. Of course, I can just put in a random answer, check it. Of course, it's no. It will tell me what the actual answer is, and it will even model it for me. So I'm particularly pleased with this one. I'm still working on it. It's still a project. It's version 2 or 3 now. And because I wanted to make it useful for pupils as well as teachers, I thought it could be used in the classroom exactly like that, but teachers could even export questions or generate worksheets either in Word or PDF with the equation that they want. So yeah, that's my journey so far. I really encourage you to get stuck into I really encourage you to get stuck in, because it is amazing. And like I said, the barrier now is not the prompts, although they are important. AI has come such a long way. It can make sense of even horribly written prompts. The barrier now is just, what are you going to do with it? Where's your imagination going to take you? So there was a little bit more than 5 minutes. I'm really sorry. I hope it was useful. I'd be very happy to hear from anyone who wants to discuss it more. You've got lots of people talking today about vibe coding, so it was great to be invited by Gideon. Thank you very much, Gideon, and like I said, hope it was useful. Have a great afternoon.
There's a lot of ideas I think that have been spoken about already, and I know I'm at the end, so there's a bit of a crossover. So I'm going to just try and cut maybe a few things out that have already been said. But really, I just wanted to showcase some, some ideas, ways in which you can go about developing your sites, your apps, ways of working, things that kind of might speed things up. I actually got into vibe coding without knowing what vibe coding was. I had subscriptions to ChatGPT, and I was just plugging away, making sort of productivity apps. My wife was saying, I need an app for this, and I need an app for this. And then that's how I kind of got into. Someone said, that's vibe coding. I said, oh, okay. I looked into it. I was like, okay, fine, let's see how this goes. So I've got some ideas. I'm just going to quickly share my screen, if that's okay. Share screen. Don't know if you can see that. There we go. So again, like I said, there are some examples where I've been using Canva, which I'm not going to go through. I think Joe's presentation on Canva was really, really good. In terms of Canva, the big thing that stuck out to me was when I realized, oh, actually you can store your data in a sheet, for results. That was a bit of a game changer for us in terms of moving away from Microsoft Forms, and we started looking at, okay, how can we make quizzes in Canva? And I've got everything actually on here. So our Canva quizzes, just very straightforward, but moving away, having multiple choice, but being able to have sort of drag and drop and fill in the blanks, and students can then submit their results to our sheet. That was one area. I don't know if there's a few platforms, but I don't know if anyone's come across Base 44 before. I did start looking at it to build sort of a programming platform for students, but very quickly ran into some problems with where data is actually being hosted. GDPR compliance in the UK, and having student accounts or information, names, that kind of stuff being stored, very quickly moved away from it. But just an example that I've built, again, it's about, I think, bringing ideas to life. And if any of you teach SQL injection at any point, you'll know it's quite hard to sort of visualize that. So one example I've got is a SQL injection sort of walkthrough using a login screen. So as I type here, for example, John, you can see it populating on the right in the SQL query. So students can see, okay, how does this translate to this? I'll quickly just log in. If I just copy this over just to take me to the next task, you'll see then, okay, then how do vulnerable attacks take place? So again, taking in additional queries, using the comment to sort of grey out the area at the end that then gets ignored by the query. So students being able to kind of visually see how that might take place, and then seeing that run in the background is something that I've been working on. The game changer for me has been Claude Code, and I know Ivan's saying that he's been using a bit of ChatGPT to kind of host on onto GitHub. One area that I've been looking at, if I just come away from this, is Claude Code running in terminal or in command line. You can actually give it access to a specific folder. So I've given it access to this folder here, which is just for a teach demo. I gave it a very basic prompt at the start of this call to say, build me a site to demonstrate, how the CPU operates, include these 3 bits of information. It did this in about 4 minutes. And then it took a few seconds to host it on my GitHub for me. And then once it's on GitHub, so Claude does all of that for you. This is where I then host. It's on Versal, so similar to Netlify. But if I go into create project, you can see these are my GitHub. That it's already linked. So Claude links to GitHub, GitHub links to this, and I can just import straight away and deploy. And within a couple of seconds, I'll come back to it. There's a fully functioning website that gets deployed. Again, bringing ideas to life, key stage 3. So thinking about, using bitmap, we use, zooming in, looking at pixels. So this is, I gave Claude my PowerPoint presentation and asked for a digital interactive lesson on bitmaps. So when we talk about resolution, so decreasing resolution, looking at pixelation, color depth, again, reducing color depth all the way down to black and white, grayscale, and then bringing it right back up. This is all something I used to teach via PowerPoint, slides. Having this as my sort of resource now, being able to sort of live demo things in one place has been really helpful. If I come back to, there you go, that's already hosted. So this is the one I just ran in the background. So you can see now, if we go to the link, it gives you a public link, it's online. This was 8 minutes in Claude Code, changing number of cores to see how quickly instructions run. Like that was done in a couple of minutes. So that's really good. And then I can quickly show you here, change the theme to a lighter mode. And then I can just say push to GitHub. And I'll come back to this in a second. It should hopefully update the website. If I come back, other ideas, so using games has been really good. I've got year 10 students who just for memory and doing exam questions and flashcards, just learning flashcards, but they actually earn a currency. And again, this is something I built with them. They gave me ideas sort of week on week to build on, but they can actually use their currency that they earn from questions in the transfer market, so they can buy players. Names are all slightly changed, as you can see, but again, that was all done by Claude. They've got a whole transfer market, 500 odd players for them to pick through. They've got managers they can hire. Again, these are all things that they wanted on there, and we kind of built it together, as we say. And then we've got a squad, so they can build their squad, and then once it's built, they can simulate matches in there. They're only allowed to do 1 match per day, and the idea is that the more flashcards they answer, the more currency they get, the more better players they can buy. If we come back to this, this is the one I just set up. This is still pushing, I think. Yeah, it's still doing the theme. Leave that running. I'll come back to another example. I don't know if anyone in here has used this resource before. I posted this on a Facebook group. It was a Who Shot Mr. Burns cryptography challenge, sort of decrypting clues. And I took the resource and just made it into an interactive site with suspects and clues are, so the first one's like Caesar cipher that they need to solve. I don't know if anyone here has used this before, but I had about 50 comments on Facebook saying, oh my God, I remember this from like 10 years ago. And the original owner, actually, creator, contacted me and said, that's my resource. I can't believe you've done it. Thank you so much. So if you've not used it before, I'll send you all this link so you can see. And then I'll end on this. These are all sort of mini projects, sort of 1 page at a time. So this is coming back to what Robert was saying, was the first speaker, thinking about large projects and planning them, building refining your plan before you jump into it. So this is a platform that I've built for school, which is hopefully, and I'll show you the dummy class, replacing what we use for Trinket. And I've taken inspiration from how class notebook works in OneNote. So students there, these are just demos, and then being able to view their folder structure, any files that they have. So kind of how that, if you use Microsoft OneNote, that's how that works. But being able to sort of go in and look at student code, physically run their code so I can see for errors, mark it as checked, they get a notification. I can leave comments on their code per file, so they can always come back and get a notification, see what their teacher has said as well. And then again, people who use Class Notebook, I've added a distribute feature, so you can actually distribute from your own area. So these are my own files. I can distribute to the whole class or individually distribute, and that will just go out to the class. All of these links are on this page, which I'll share out towards the end. And hopefully we can see that our page is, Claude is still working away. It's going to push it in a second. I know I've run out of time, but I'll share this link with Emma, and then hopefully you can have a look through any questions. If anyone wants help setting up sort of Claude Code, Versal, and the database, more than happy to help.
Hi everyone, here is my presentation on enabling environments through VibeCoding, the 5P method that I've developed. So first of all, what are enabling environments? So these are the environments in our school that are intentionally designed to remove barriers to growth, encourage exploration and emotional safety, and foster independence in our pupils, basically helping them to thrive. And I've long thought, how can tech help with this? So VibeCoding is a great way to help with this, and to make sure that my projects were successful, I developed the 5Ps method. So we've got problem, pedtech, prompt, polish, and push. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through each of these steps and provide you with an example of how I used it to create an app that I'll show you at the end. So our first P is problem. So this is where you identify the barriers to learning. So really important, this is your why. Why are you creating an app? Not because it's something that you can do, it's nice and shiny. There's got to be a reason why you're creating it. So in my example, the children were limited to unadventurous vocabulary when they were overwhelmed by the word banks. They just weren't using the word banks, and it was really reflecting in their work. Then we come on to our second P, and this is the pedtech. Now, if you're familiar with Dr. Fiona Aubrey-Smith's work, she talks about pedtech, which is pedagogy before technology. And it's really important to have that why before you move into the technology, not being technology-led, but being pedagogy-led. So in my case, I thought about why the children weren't using those word banks and why they were overwhelmed. So it could have been cognitive overload, poor reading skills, or dyslexia. This is also the stage where you start thinking about the technology, you start thinking about those apps that might help. So for me, that was, it would be amazing if I had a talking word bank. That was where the idea came from. You might have more than one idea, but this is the idea to just brainstorm those ideas and get your creative juices flowing. Our next P is prompt, and this is where we need to generate a detailed prompt. Now, there are loads and loads of resources out there about how to create a detailed prompt. What I found when I'm using VibeCoding and when I'm creating VibeCoding projects is that I like to use another chatbot first. So in this case, I've used Microsoft Copilot to help me create a really detailed prompt for the Canva AI, for example. And I do this for a number of reasons. One, because creating code takes an enormous amount of energy, and I don't want to be doing it 10, 12, 15 times if I can get away with doing it only 3 or 4. And also by using the chatbot, I have asked the chatbot to ask me clarifying questions. So it really forces me to think about what I want from the app. So it helps me to get a clear picture in my head. So the little person, me in the corner, is telling you to keep the human in the loop. So you need to be really specific about what you want, and then you need to check the prompt that Copilot or Gemini is giving you back to make sure it is reflecting what you want. So once you have your prompt, we then go on to polish. This is where you use a VibeCoding platform to create and refine your app. So I chose Canva Code for mine because I wanted it to be bright and colourful, and I already have the education license for Canva. So that's why I chose that platform. So you can see on the video that I had quite a long prompt, and then I had to test it each time. So there's a version. Every time it gives you a version, and you can have a look and test it. It's really, really important that you do that. Again, it's that keeping the human in the loop. This is your place to check for bias and misinformation, making sure that it's accurate, making sure that it works, and making sure it looks exactly what you want it to look like. Try and break it. Try and do something that you don't want it to do. So in my case, one of the things it wasn't doing was if I put Manchester United in, it would put it as 2 separate tiles rather than as one whole tile. So that was another iteration I needed to do. Our final P is push. So once you're happy with it, you can then share it with your intended audience. And the great thing about things like Canva AI and PlayLab AI and all those sorts of places is that it's really easy to share because it creates a website, which you can then share as a link or as a QR code to share to the devices that your children are using. So if you scan this QR code or click the link here, it will take you to my word bank, my talking word bank. So it opens up, And this is my word bank, so we can type in some words. I'm just going to put 3 in, and we're going to generate. And then if we click
dog,
it talks, and it also highlights and lights up
bird.
And we can also go back and we can edit. Feel free to use this app, by the way. You don't have to create your own. The website's there if you need it. I don't mind you just using mine. So just as a recap, we've got the 5 Ps. We've got problem. Why are you doing this? What is the problem? What is the barrier in your classroom? PedTech. What barriers are there and how is technology going to help you with that? Prompt. Create a detailed prompt. Use other chatbots to help you get a really detailed prompt. Polish. Create it and refine it. Test it. And then push, share it with people using the link. And finally, there's a little extra P at the bottom about ponder. What if? What if? This is always what I do with EdTech. I ponder, I think, what if, what next? So thank you very much for listening, guys. If you click on the LinkedIn button, you can follow me on LinkedIn. And I also have a website coming soon with some of my vibe coding projects and some curriculum that I've developed and some lessons and things like that. But yeah, so that'll be coming soon. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.